With Boruto now learning the Flying Rajin, it brings a whole new perspective to his character. Me personally, I am a big Minato fan. Minato as a character is probably one of the most interesting characters and has probably one of the biggest fan bases next to Itachi. Just being such a popular character, just in his essence, he's just so cool. He has one of the coolest techniques where he can use space-time ninjutsu to disappear at certain points. He is just an overall cool character. Now, with Boruto learning the Flying Rajin, and due to Minato being underutilized, it kind of feels like we're getting like a second coming of Minato, which makes sense, right? Minato being his grandpa, and sort of seeing what Minato with a lot more training, a lot more mentorship, and just having Naruto and Hinata as parents could actually do. We've seen Boruto in part 1 pull off insane jutsus. I'm talking about the vanishing Rasengan and just taking on crazy enemies in just part 1 of Boruto, which is due to his karma seal as well, but just his background puts him leagues above everybody else. Now, in Boruto Two Blue Vortex, which is the time skip of Boruto, Boruto learns the Flying Rajin, and we see him do it in chapter 4 of Boruto Two Blue Vortex. And what's interesting about that is the Flying Rajin technique is not known by a lot of people, and there's some people that know the technique, but it requires him to use like 3 or 4 people to transport one individual. But Boruto's able to use it by himself, similar to how his grandpa was able to. I like that they're going to incorporate Kashin Koji into the story, and I think Kashin Koji is kind of how Boruto was able to learn this technique and was even able to be aware of it. Following the events of the time skip, there was a instance where Code mentioned that Sasuke and Boruto may have fought Code at some point in time, and we see at the end of Boruto Two Blue Vortex chapter 4, Sasuke being stuck inside of a tree. Now, I think at some point after those events, Boruto came across Kashin Koji, and Kashin Koji decided to take him under his wing. Now, what I really like about this is that Kashin Koji training Boruto would essentially mean that 3 different generations of Uzumakis have been trained by Jiraiya. Essentially, you got Minato being trained by Jiraiya, Naruto being trained by Jiraiya, and Boruto technically being trained by a Jiraiya clone, which we're still going to count that. But it is kind of cool to see this carry on to this generation. And the thing with Kashin Koji is he's a clone of Jiraiya, and I wonder if Kashin Koji being a clone and Kashin Koji being able to recall some of the memories of Jiraiya has knowledge of some of the techniques that Minato actually had and is now teaching them to Boruto. Also, another thing is Kashin Koji can freely go inside the village and out. There was a filler episode where Kashin Koji infiltrated and stole a scroll from a library because genetically he is similar to Jiraiya and would not trigger off the sensors. So I'm actually curious to see if the Flying Rajin or maybe some other techniques were stolen from the Hidden Leaf Village and were used on Boruto so Boruto could sharpen his tool set. If you've been following the story, Boruto cannot rely on his karma anymore, and it is important that he focuses on sharpening his skills and sharpening his hand-to-hand combat as well as his kenjutsu. We see him now wielding a sword, which is most likely the influence of Sasuke before he got put into a tree, and now we see him utilizing techniques that Minato was using. He's more so focusing on those raw ninja fundamentals. There's kind of some similarities as well with just Minato and Boruto, right? These are 2 highly intelligent ninja, and they are insanely creative with the techniques they've created, and their battle sense is one of the highest in the whole series. Boruto creating those techniques like I talked about before, like the vanishing Rasengan, is just insane. Minato by himself created the Rasengan, the concept for that, and just because his intellect was so high, he was able to figure out how to get that Rasengan created and develop that new technique, which now Boruto is expanding on Minato's previous work, kind of how Naruto did. But the thing with Naruto that kind of repeated over time was Naruto didn't really utilize the Rasengan as much as Boruto's using it. Boruto's using different techniques. He's using the Earth's rotation. He's using it, mixing it with different chakra natures so it disappears. Naruto's Rasengan got bigger, got more powerful, mainly because of his chakra reserves. I mean, Naruto being a Jinchuriki kind of contributed to that increase of power and increase of chakra levels. So for his character, it makes sense that he gets bigger Rasengan to maybe apply some chakra natures to it once he gets towards the end of the story, and mainly focuses on the raw damage that it's doing. Boruto doesn't have the raw chakra reserves of his father, so he is forced to utilize these different techniques and abilities and use those abilities to sort of come out on top, which I think is a nice comparison and allows us to see what if Minato was still alive and what if he was able to utilize his abilities a lot better with even a greater understanding of it. I mean, by the time Boruto was born, there's been so much information about the Rasengan. He also has Sasuke with him too. So, I mean, just to put it blunt, Boruto is privileged with the amount of information he's getting right now, and is surely going to be a beast moving forward. And now that we got Kashin Koji in the story, I think that Kashin Koji is not only going to help Boruto become a better version of himself and sort of mirror Minato, but it's also going to give us some very important details for the story. I mean, Kashin Koji is probably one of the most important characters in terms of information besides Momoshiki. Momoshiki was giving us a bunch of information about the Otsutsuki and things of that nature. Kashin Koji is going to give us a bunch of information about characters like Amato and different things that we didn't know, such as facts about code and things like that. So Kashin Koji alone is a very important piece of the story, and I'm glad that he's being paired up with Boruto. Is going to help him out in the future. But let me know what you guys think about Boruto and the Flying Rajin. Do you think that Boruto will develop the Flying Rajin even more and will develop even crazier jutsus like Rasengan Yuzahiko? Or do you think that Boruto is going to start taking some influence from some other people, maybe from Jiraiya and learning some of his techniques, or maybe getting some more Sasuke's and developing those a little bit further? Anyways, hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.